Yeah. Ready? Yeah. Good morning and welcome to the Olympian Table.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today, James?
Oh, hey, y'all are doing fine.
Absolutely wonderful.
No complaints at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So life's treating you good in Texas?
Oh, absolutely. Every day I'm above ground, I can count it as a blessing.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yep. Every day I breathe is a grateful day.
You got it.
Anyway, everyone, so today we're talking about, we're starting a home buyer series, which is just general information, and over the next few weeks we're going to walk you through the whole process. And so the first part of this series is, so you want to buy a house. Well, what do I do? Do I want to buy a house? Do you jump in your car? Do you go see that beautiful red door? Or do you go ahead and say, well, all I want to see is the granite countertops? Just a real quick story is, before I was a real estate agent, my wife actually used to just go and look at houses because she wanted to see the interior design. She just wanted to know whether she could take them designs and actually take them to the house and do it herself.
That's just the thing that women do, I guess, because my wife did the same thing. Same thing, until I told her to stop wasting people's time.
Yeah, and then it led to a lot of problems when we rehabbed our house, and now I'm like, I don't like that colour. But she said, well, I like them white countertops in that other house that I seen years back. So that was all good fun. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk today to James Lee, and I'm going to sort of throw some things in about what we think you should do when you start looking at a house. And the first stage is, when you look for a house, James, is...
Get pre-qualified. Get pre-qualified, people. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Now, some people go and find a realtor. They will find a realtor, which is cool, right? There's
Absolutely.
no problem. As long as your realtor also knows that the first step before they get you out looking for homes is get pre-qualified. Because they'll refer you to somebody that can help you.
I totally agree. And there's nothing, do you know what? There's nothing more frustrating than when you see that house and you love the house and you like the pool, and then you've got to get qualified, and by the time you get qualified, house is gone.
It's gone off the market.
And you know, today, in today's market, if you really think about it, you know, we are getting multiple offers on properties, and just flip it round and look at it from the seller's point of view. If you got two offers and they're both the same price, and one's fully qualified and the other one isn't, which one are you going to take?
I'm the guy that's ready to go. The one that is ready to pull the trigger and make a move is the one that gets my vote.
Absolutely. It would me as well if I was a seller. And the other part that I've learned over the years is there's more people that lose their earnest money because they haven't been qualified.
Yeah.
And I do blame the agents for that, because the agent should turn around and say, get qualified before we even show the house. And yet some buyers get upset. Some buyers get upset. Well, the agent down the street said, they can go take me for a house.
Right.
You know, and really, it's such a shame, because there's nothing. I'll never forget when I first came over here, because it's very different to what it is buying a home in England. And I've got to be honest, when he said get qualified, I'm like, qualified?
Qualified for what? Right. Yeah.
So, you know, to be perfectly honest, it's just good to go get qualified, get yourself a great lender called James Lee Loans. Oh, was it the Lee Group?
Lee Group Loans.
The Lee Group Loans. I always mess that up.
Yeah.
And basically get qualified.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's down, you'll see it in the description, how to get in contact with me if you need it. So you want to unpack that a bit?
Absolutely. Let's go.
What does pre-qualified actually mean? Because that term is thrown around a lot out there in the mortgage or real estate world. And many people say, oh, I'm pre-qualified, but it's some piece of paper that came in the mail that says, hey, you're pre-qualified, where there's nothing that's been verified. Nothing really has been given, any documentation has been gathered. And that's the biggest difference when it comes to getting pre-qualified versus getting pre-approved, the verification piece. Now, being an originator for the past 20 years plus, I can look at a file, look at someone's credit, their income documents, and be able to say, hey, we can get you pre-qualified to purchase a home, blah, blah, blah. It is not the actual licensed underwriting approval, but I don't like to give a letter, me personally, with my name to say that you're able to buy unless I believe in that file. There are some folks that will give you a letter. If you fog a mirror, it doesn't really matter. You can get it without there being any type of verification. And then you have the pre-approvals, which are an actual full committed loan that sat in front of an underwriter where all your documentation has been reviewed and verified, where you can actually go out and kind of start to search for your houses. That is the safest way to actually do it, but it takes time because you have to get everything kind of together, submit it to an underwriter, and then go and do it. In today's market, speed is what's going to win the deal for you. So if we can get someone over and we can get their documentation, I can review it as a kind of a quote unquote pre-junior underwriter, so to speak, and give a good set of eyes to say, hey, yeah, this is what we can do. But if there's something that even I'm not comfortable with, I'll submit it or get it in front of an underwriter to make sure that it's something that we can do, because I want to be certain that when I give you a letter to go and search for a home, that you can actually buy a house.
Absolutely, and that takes a little bit of effort for the buyer as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The biggest effort is gathering the documentation. We live in this age of microwave society, right? Everyone wants it quick. No one wants to get you the documentation. No one wants to gather the papers. They just want to send you what they think you ought to have. You ask for a bank statement, they send you one page. You ask for a tax return, they're sending you one page. And we need all of that stuff to really truly determine whether or not we're going to give you this $250,000 for this house.
Right.
And a lot of people don't really understand how important that is. So I think a conversation with them to set expectations from an agent's perspective, to let them know, hey, listen, this is what you're going to have to get it together, and boom. Or they can watch a video from the Olympian Table,
right,
to get an idea on what they need to gather together, right?
Come watch a video at the Olympian Table and come and watch our new series.
Absolutely. So speaking of what you got to get together, typically as a wage earner, you're going to need your W-2s for the past 2 years. Your tax returns for the past 2 years will also possibly be asked for. Bank statements, past 2 months, and then pay stubs to cover the 30 days. So if you get paid bi-weekly, that's 2 pay stubs. So remember, 222, that's what we really want. 2 pay stubs, 2 bank statements, 2 years W-2s, 2 years tax returns. That's really kind of the formula that works. And if there's anything else that we need, then we'll ask for it at that point. And of course, I'll ask for a photo ID to make sure that what I've got in the documentation, that it's from the person that actually sent it to me, just to verify that.
And in the perfect scenario, they've got all that information. How long does it take to get?
If I have everything that I asked for, 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it doesn't take that long to do. The problem is, what I deal with is people sending me incomplete documents. They want incomplete documents and they want a complete answer. And that part is the most frustrating piece of it, because you got the realtor that's leaning on you to get an answer on whether they should go out with this person. And then, of course, you have your buyer that wants to go out to start to see homes, but they haven't sent you everything that you need. So sometimes when I get documentation, it may ask for me to ask for something else. For instance, if I get a pay stub and there's a deduction from the attorney general, then you know what? I need a child support order. I need to see what that is, what that's going to be, so I can actually make sure that I'm including that in my pre-qualification. I'll try to be as thorough as possible, because I don't like for the surprises to come up at the end and we know things kind of blow up and you can't close the deal. And I don't want that. I want to sleep at night. I don't want to make any new enemies.
Absolutely. And then, is it easier for an employee, a W-2 employee, or a self-employed person to get a loan?
So
that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, that list that I just gave is mainly for wage earners, right? That will need it. For self-employed people, you'll need the same thing, with the exception of the pay stubs, because you probably won't have pay stubs as a self-employed person unless you run a K-1, you have some type of corporation set up where you pay yourself a W-2. But for self-employed people, you'll have to have those tax returns to cover the most recent 2 years. And then you may even be asked for a profit and loss statement, a year-to-date profit and loss statement, just to see where the income is there. You may be asked for the business bank statements to make sure that, if you're using money from the business, it's not going to dissolve the company if you use that to buy a home. So there's a little bit more detailed documentation needed for a self-employed person versus someone that's a wage earner that's working for a company.
And the challenge for obviously self-employed people is, they're always trying to take every write-off.
Right.
So obviously that's a challenge for them.
And it's not against the law to do that. All right. The write-offs, everyone, who wants to pay taxes? No one really wants to pay taxes. So you want to take advantage of the write-offs that you can. But if you write everything off from your income, that's what we have to use to qualify you for the loan. Unfortunately, that ends up being a detriment to some people. So there are some products that help to kind of help alleviate that. Not to go too deep into it, but stated income is making its way back, and bank statement programs are making their way back. So there's options for those people. You just got to have a little bit more skin in the game in order to qualify.
Yeah, I've had some bad experiences in the past. We've taken people out to show them houses. They got real excited, about the house, and they like it, and because they're not qualified. That was one of the big mistakes I made as an agent, not advising that to people when I first got into the business, to be perfectly honest. And it just got frustrating because as a valued real estate agent, I didn't feel I sort of did them well. But as you go through the years and you get a little bit more experience under your belt, then obviously you work with a great loan officer like yourself, and that's why we've had you here for 12 years at the company. And the truth of the matter is, it's actually so much easier,
right?
Because it's a great experience for somebody to buy a house.
It is,
and they feel so. And there's no better experience as a real estate agent that when they walk into that house for the first time and it's got their name on the door, it's just a great experience for them. And many, it's the first time it's the biggest purchase they'll ever do in their life. It really is. Yeah, and so how do you find a good loan officer?
Well, look no further. Here I am, right? But really, as you're shopping around, typically, if you're going to be if you happen to find your agent first, they will usually be working with a loan officer that they trust. They kind of have it as seamless as a team, which is a team approach we try to run around here. That it's all encompassing. We've done business together. We know how we work. So you'll probably get a good referral from an agent that you trust. But if not, you can always find loan officers online. You can at Google if there's a person looking for a mortgage loan officer in Houston or in Pearland or whatever the case is. And not only that, you want to look at the reviews, read the reviews, because you can pay for a position to be in that top spot, right? But you want to actually look and unpack. Look at the reviews. You have to be
careful when you're looking at reviews as well.
You do, because
sometimes you see them and you think, really, 5 across the board?
Yeah, yeah. Now I will say, all of my reviews are organic. I work very hard for them, but there are some that you can look at and you're like, I don't know if this is actually real. You want to see someone that's going to actually be closing transactions. If they have some type of social media presence of sorts, be it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, that they're actually closing transactions, I think is key. And then, of course, I don't mind.
Just on the other side is that, sometimes you got to be careful with social media as well.
You do. And it's a good point you point that out, because you can fake it till you make it, right?
Absolutely.
Fake it till you make it. But if you're seeing the reviews that they've been giving good service, and even the realtor, if the realtor happens to refer them to you, they can be able to speak and kind of build them up as well.
And one of my frustrations is with the real estate agent side of the deal, to be perfectly honest, is, well, no, it's okay. I'm going to use my sister. She's a real estate agent. She's a loan officer. Yeah. And what I say to everybody is, so are you selecting your loan officer or your agent because they're a family member or incompetent?
Yeah.
Because there's some people, I call them hobby agents, where they're basically just doing it on it's like their side gig.
Yeah, being a loan officer is not a side gig kind of deal.
No, it's so complicated.
We have a lot of moving parts that take place, so you're either going to be all in on this thing or not. So I don't recommend using someone that's just doing it. I think if you can find someone that's working it and you can trust them, have a conversation with them. I've taken phone calls many times with someone just to build rapport and to build trust, and tell them, listen, whether you use me or not, I want you to be educated enough to be able to make a decision, because it's important that we have a great representation for loan originators, and I think the whole used car salesman approach. No offense to anyone that might be doing that. You don't want to come across that way. We're just some kind of sleazeball trying to take advantage of people.
Yeah, and I've always said one of my business practices, and yours, because we talk about this all the time, is we should offer value to our clients.
Absolutely.
And the only way I think you offer value to clients is do exactly what you said, which is a good agent will know a great loan officer or know a great inspector. Will not just provide you one inspector, but a number of inspectors.
Right.
So I really think that's part of the value that, a good agent offers. I can't tell you how many times I said to you, people have said to me, oh, well, my sister's an agent.
Right.
And I just think to myself, well, are you really picking them because they're a family member or, they're competent in what they're doing?
Right.
Because, the two most things that an agent offers is strategy and negotiation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And yourself, we've had meetings at the office where we've had two agents next to one another. One said, oh, in this market, you should never ask for closing costs. And the other agent always asks for closing costs. And they close more deals.
Oh, yeah.
And they give more value to the client.
To the client, right.
And so, you've always got to learn in this business. And I think that's the hard part for loan officers. I mean, when you look at how many different products there are, it's the programs will. And they change all the time. I mean, they're changing all the time.
Right. That's why it's key when you get a relationship or you build a relationship with someone that you use them. So for a consumer, you're going to have to lean on the professionals. Trust who you're working with. When you find a loan officer that you trust, that you built that bit of rapport with, stick with them. Right. Stick with them, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Right. Challenge, ask questions, and then kind of.
A good agent or a good loan officer will.
They welcome questions.
They will.
It scares me when
they'll actually encourage you to ask questions.
When first-time home buyers come in and they don't have a lot of questions, I'll go and kind of give them my whole spiel or whatever. And oh, you got any questions? And they're like, no. That concerns me because it something. I know they don't understand everything. So that lets me know that they're going to ask the question to someone. It might be mom or dad or an uncle or whoever the case is. And I don't want someone to get information that's wrong information, and I have to come in and dispute that information, and that that might be their family member or someone that they really do trust. To tell them, hey, I know what mom or dad said, but they're wrong. That's not how it goes. I've had to do that before, but it does concern me. So I welcome the questions. I welcome the questions and invite them for sure.
And when you look at the stages, I mean, through a contract, and we're going to talk about that, during the series.
Yeah.
This is really the most important part.
This is very, very important because if you don't do it right in the beginning, it can blow up at the end when you have so much more at stake.
My father, rest his soul, used to say, if you build a house and the foundation's good, you can build as many floors as you want.
Very true.
And this is the foundation.
Oh, your dad, he's a wise man. That's a great quote.
And basically that's what he always said. If you've got a great foundation, you can build as many floors as you want. But if that foundation's not right, and how many times have you approved somebody for an FHA and there's been problems and they moved over to a conventional?
It happens. It can happen. It can definitely happen. Speaking of just approving them, period. There are some times in the transaction where a consumer may do something wrong. Go out and co-sign for someone, or they miss a payment on something. They spend all of their money that they have in the bank. It happens. Things can kind of derail it, but foundationally, to go back to your point, when I have the conversation with them, I advise them things that we need to do or not do to make sure that we can keep this train on the rails until we get to the closing table.
Right. And as an agent, there's nothing more embarrassing when you're trying to sell your client to buy this house. And you say, this is a great client, they're well qualified, they can get this done, they'll get it over the line, then your seller's happy. And then there's a problem with the loan.
Right. Yes, I had a phone call with an agent on the way over here, and she's been dealing with trying to get this transaction closed. And unfortunately, I'm not involved in it, but it's one that I can only offer my, some words of comfort is the best I could do. She's in a bit of a pickle, and I wish that I could have done more for her, but at this point, there's nothing I can do. Just be a listening ear. So, I don't know who chose that LO, but that's where we are.
Yeah. And then how do you think the best way is for people to find, a great real estate agent? Because that's a difficult part of the process. There's so many different, and there's so many misleading sites, in my opinion, about, and they are some of the reviews that are purchased. I think referral obviously is the number one.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Speak to past clients.
Referral, definitely. Just like you would choose a doctor, right?
Right.
I mean, you don't just go and pick, open up, I'm dating myself, open up a phone book and pick a doctor.
Right.
But you ask someone, hey, who's your doctor? Who do you deal with?
And I've been an independent real estate company at one time. I personally think that with franchises, there's another level of customer service that you can get. If you're not happy with if you're not happy with the agent, and you're not happy with the broker, you can always go to the franchise. They'll put some squeeze on you. I know Section 21 at times. I'm glad to say we haven't been in line of fire, but I know there's been some other franchises that, have got involved with stuff, because at the end of the day, their reputation and image is, so important.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think that there's a different level of surface for, a lot of the franchises. But I do think it's difficult to, there's so many agents out there that it's difficult at times to find a great agent. But, speak to past clients. And the thing I've always said is, and I tell all my agents, is give them my number. If they've got a problem, they can call me as the owner broker of the whole company. Give them my direct number. And the amount of times I've got on the phone with people,
right,
where they haven't, some of the agents haven't fully developed a strategy or developed or explained something fully to the clients. I've told them, just take my number, give me a call, get me on a conference call.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing more frustrating, I think, for some clients, where they'd be contacting their loan officers or their agent, where the agent does not return the calls, the agent doesn't respond. Because a lot of these buyers, they just can't, they don't know the process. They've never been through the process, especially first-time home buyers.
Right.
They don't understand a lot of the terminology. And for a lot of agents, they know the terminology and they just rattle it off and they think, oh, you should know it, but it's not.
Right. Yeah, it's not.
It's a first-time experience.
So I will say that. So specifically about once you get the documentation and you get the pre-qualification done, of course, then your loan officer will kind of start talking to you about different products. And one thing specifically I wanted to kind of talk about, the different products. There's only 4. You got FHA, conventional, VA, and then the USDA. And they all have different qualification or parameters, to actually work. But a good loan officer, of course, will put you in a product that best suits you, or at least give you options to pick those. Now, in the market we're in now, and this is my question to you, because we'll go into this, the different types of products a little bit further on down on another podcast. To the point that you mentioned, I am seeing or have seen that some agents are getting their offers kicked back when someone's using FHA versus conventional. Mm-hmm. They will say, hey, we can't get this offer in because it's an FHA deal, or we can't get this offer in because it's a VA, or whatever the case is. What's the mindset? What would you say the mindset would be that an agent would feel that way? Because the money's going to be the same. To the seller, money's going to be the same.
At the end of the day,
the end of the day, money's going to be the same.
I think part of the problem, to be perfectly honest, is uneducated listing agents.
There you go.
Because they think to themselves, well, they're only putting 3.5% down, so they've got less skin in the game. I mean, and
they kind of overthink
that. It's not necessarily true. It's just not true.
Right.
I think every situation's a little bit different. No 2 deals are ever the same.
Right.
So that's why I think finding yourself a great loan officer and a great agent is so important. Because how many times have we been in a deal, like you said earlier on, and you've been kicked off the rails, then you've got to pull it back onto the rails. And at the end of the day, although I use the term deals, at the end of the day, you're trying to get the client from A to B,
right?
With the less stress as possible.
Absolutely.
But the truth of the matter is, I mean, that's the strategy, and to me, the negotiation skills that comes in, with a good agent.
I would have to agree with you on that because many times I've had agents call me and they say something about a product. Conventionally, you got to put 20% down with that, right? I'm like, no.
But do you not think? Well, do you not think that's part of the problem with agents trying to be loan officers?
Well,
and they should leave it alone and leave it to an expert.
I don't even know so much that they're trying to be, because it takes nothing to get on the internet and find out how much you got to put down for a loan. But I think they don't educate themselves enough, or they haven't done enough transactions to realize, oh no, you don't have to put this much down. I think it's perfectly fine of being versed in the high level 30,000 foot view of the products and what's required. I think you should, because you need to be able to write a contract. But all the little minutia, all the little details that goes into doing a loan, no, stay in your lane. We'll stay in our lane, and you work with someone that you trust that'll handle your customer that way. But to your point, I think many times the agents that are listing these properties, they assume that one product is going to be worse than another, or sometimes even they're not disclosing to the market that this house didn't appraise, because we all know that the government products, the appraisals are staying on the properties for amount of time, 4 months. Mm-hmm. So if
it used to be longer.
Right, it used to be longer. And if you use or if you take an offer on that deal and they're using that type of financing, you got to stick with the appraisal that was already done.
Right.
But rather than coming out and saying that, they'll say, "Oh, we're not accepting any FHA offers," or "FHA has been tough to do." I don't know. To me, I think it's a disservice if you're denying someone's financing because of the type of financing that they have, especially if it's a deal that can get done. That's my opinion.
Yeah, recently we've experienced a lot of people putting big down payments down to get the deal.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's a misconception. I really do. I think an FHA loan to me is just as viewable as a conventional loan.
It is.
Sometimes it's even stronger.
And the deal with it's an insured loan. It's a government insured loan.
Right, absolutely.
So,
and it's easier in many ways for the buyer to get qualified for.
It is a little more forgiving on it, but I don't know. I think we kind of create our own problems when we stop.
But a lot of that is a lot of loan officers and agents overthinking it.
Yep, I agree.
And that's one of the problems we get with a lot of new agents that come in. It's like, well, I want to know everything. But the truth of the matter is nobody knows anything. But what you need is a good team of people where you can go and ask questions, just like you said. So if you've got a loan officer question, pick the phone up and call James Lee.
Right.
If you've got a real estate question, call Steve Williams at Century 21. But that's what we're trying to do, is to just get that client over the line.
So once we actually get them pre-qualified and we get them kind of a high level view of which product they'll use, then I'm throwing it back to you, man, and you get out there in the streets.
Absolutely.
And you start doing your thing.
I was talking to an agent today actually about a transaction that we had, and he said, what, I've shown this client, all right, I've shown them 30 homes.
Wow.
Good agent, very diligent. And I said to him, have you made any offers on the house? Has the client found any houses? And he said, well, I'm approved for an FHA loan. And that's exactly what's been happening. He's been getting some of the deals kicked back. And to me, it's a disservice to the client in many ways. But it's the listing agent's concept. A person selling because what they're doing is the listing agent is giving the advice to the seller. And who's the seller going to believe? But I really feel that FHA loans in many ways are actually a stronger loan because it's insured.
Yeah, it's all a mess that we control kind of the outcome.
Which is self-created, really.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's self-created.
So when you get into those multiple offer situations and they're not accepting your FHA deal, I'll say don't be discouraged. Continue,
Right.
keep on. Find another property because that loan is just as good as any other loan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just quickly tell me, we get a lot of calls from people and say, I'm interested in getting a loan and I want a down payment assistance program, but quite honestly, they're not as good as people think, are they?
Well, it's not they're not good. It's just not free like people think.
But the interest rate's normally higher.
It is going to be higher on it, and there's a lot of them out there. The biggest part of it is people really understanding that it's not free. Again, it is not free. I had a call with a lady yesterday about this same thing, and she said, "Yeah, I just don't want to miss out on any free money." I was like, "Well, let me just correct you. It's not free. There are fees associated with it, and the rate themselves can end up being a little bit higher, but it is what it is." So it's if the person truly needs it, I say we welcome it. You truly need it, we welcome it. Hey, it's great. But if you have your own money, you probably end up getting a better deal than using it. Because sometimes folks, they have money, they don't want to use their money. They want to use the quote unquote free money.
Right. But the interest rate's higher.
It is. For interest rate is higher. You do have to do a few more steps as far as, an education piece. They've gotten a lot better at closing time with them, depending on which ones they are. But there's still a few extra layers in there that you have to actually do. But I'll say, hey, to me, it makes no difference. But I want everyone to be educated and they know what they're getting into if they choose to go that route.
And what's qualified as funds for a down payment? I mean, sometimes, it's very difficult. People think, oh, well, I'll just borrow money from my sister.
Well, you can say that to yourself, but anytime you borrow anything, that's considered a bill, a debt that we have to count against you. So it'd be better for your sister to gift those funds to you.
Right.
And she would have to fill out a gift letter, and depending on the product, she might have to even provide documentation to show that she's had the ability to gift. Right. She's giving that money from her account. So it's important to consult with your loan officer first before there's any movement of any monies, any gifts, or anything like that, because they can advise you as to what steps to take in order to be able to do it the proper way, so it doesn't cause you any pain in the end.
Right. And the money has to be seasoned, does it?
Well, a gift doesn't have to be seasoned, but the any monies, let's say you got money even to having at home, right? It's just cash on hand in a sock drawer or under your mattress or whatever. That money has to be in their bank account for at least 60 days in order for it to be considered seasoned funds. You can't just go and pull 10 grand out of your closet and stick it in a bank, because we're going to know where that came from.
Right.
The bank, we're basically saying that you have the ability to pay this loan back, and the last thing we need to do is find out that the 10 grand that you just deposited came from some loan shark that's going to come and bust your knees up or take your anything. We want to make sure that it's all legitimate. And 60 days is that window for us. So
yes, so that's pretty good. That I think we spoke about this because it's so important to get them clients qualified. So if they see that beautiful house with the red door and the granite countertops, they can make that offer and it's successful, because it's frustrating for everybody. For the seller, you've got an offer on the property and they're not closing. It's disappointing when you've got to do extension after extension after extension, because they haven't got that pre-qualification taken care of. So
it's important.
Anyway, so that's a great topic to start off with on the series. I think that's pretty cool that we've started that and we got that off, and we're going to do, everyone. We're actually going to cover a series which will take you from point A to point B, which will take you all the way through the contract.
Absolutely.
And then that way, hopefully, people will be better educated to understand the process, because that's part of the big problem. Is it's getting to
understanding it, right?
What's going on. Obviously, you've got to trust an expert. We want you to put yourself in contact with an expert. But for everybody, please go ahead. Oh, we've got some questions on.
Yeah, we hit them.
We've spoken them. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Everything. So anyway, from League Group Loans and from Central Olympian, we'd like to sort of thanks for everybody for joining us at the table. Stay in touch, please. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And we'll be speaking to you next week.
All right. Take care.
Take good. Have a good week.